there comes a time where the world needs a man who is able to, in the face of overwhelming circumstances, be the most just reductive, infuriating, stupid contrarian. And that man is Brendan O'Neill.
This week, the chattering classes of this once great nation have been a flurry and a flutter about those disrespecting their precious safe space, or as the Guardianistas of the People's Republic of Islington are calling it, quarantine. The hullabaloo began when a video emerged of proud British holidaymakers trying to enjoy the last of their trip to Spain, drinking beers in the street and comparing stomach tattoos in the time-honoured fashion of Brits abroad. The SJW Spanish police, however, or Policía as they call it over in Duce, España, were trying to impinge upon their rights by asking them politely to return to their accommodation for their own safety and the safety of others. The Sandal Sandinistas of Stoke Newington, though, took to Twitter, not to defend these pioneers, these ambassadors of the stiff upper gut, but to admonish them, to say that they were irresponsible and embarrassing. But how can this be? It is an Englishman's fundamental human right since the dawn of time to drink 18 Stellas and sing DJ Otzi's 2000 hit Hey Baby at bewildered and weary Spaniards. Can this right be curtailed just because of a global crisis? Could these champagne Politburo types even drink 18 Stellas in one sitting? Their silence speaks volumes. No. This is an issue of freedom of speech, a fundamental clash between the right to say that you are English and contract a virus, and the desire of the quinoa Khmer Rouge to make everyone stay home and read Marx. We must take a stand. They say people should work from home, and we must close schools except for the children of key workers. But surely the free market can offer us a solution. Since children are immune to the disease, is this not the time to reconsider child labour? We could have hospitals, supermarkets, pubs, and so on, staffed entirely by children aged 0 to 9. Would this not be the safe space these people crave? A system run without the danger of any workers contracting the disease? But will they accept such a bold solution? Of course not. They are brainwashed by anti-child labour propaganda about steam looms and Nike shoes and such like, too brainwashed even to save lives. No, indeed, they will continue instead to curtail our freedoms and our speech until they have what they want, a version of the Soviet Union where you cannot say you are English. We are at a critical moment. I realised today, as I glanced over at the news and saw that the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus had risen to 1,984.
You don't miss.
Greetings from quarantine.
Hey, and welcome to this all remote, all separate, all quarantine, all safe episode of Trash Future Season 3 premiere!
Yes, we're starting a new season because time is moving faster now. You might have thought it was Season 2 mere months ago, and you would be right. But months ago was a decade ago. Now we're on Season 3.
Yeah. It's a new era, baby. Mm-hmm. Everything's different now. All of it.
Yes. We have a different vibe. And the vibe is that we're all calling in from different, secure, undisclosed locations. We're all wearing hazmat suits. We're all wearing gas masks under the hazmat suits. And we're all just... You have to imagine all of us individually cleaning rifles.
Yeah. Are we finally safe from Hillary Clinton's hitmen? Time can only tell.
Alice, I want you to hit me with the Castle Thunder after this, because I'm saying yes. We used to say... Line go down, line go down, line go down. The line is done going. We have a soundboard now.
Yes, we can totally destroy the podcast.
It's Riley, Alice, Milo, and Nate. How is everybody from our secure bunker locations?
Yes, do not approach the secure bunker locations. We have the Trash Future sniper nest set up. We are fully online, 360-degree situational awareness, and we're ready to make a fucking podcast.
I've got an assault rifle 15 taped to a Roomba. Approach with extreme caution.
That is the soundboard. It's very hazardous to use. We have to like chase after it to try and hit a button.
How are we all feeling in the first post-capitalist episode of Trash Future?
I'm thriving, man. I'm wearing a gas mask over my gas mask. I just have like kegs and kegs of purified water and like iodine tablets. I was born for this shit, man. I'm great.
Milo?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm at Maddie's parents in Sussex. Yeah. I'm not wearing a gas mask. Maddie has been shouting at her dad for going to B&Q every day for car parts. But you know what? I'm not going to tell him he can't go to B&Q. It's the man's only joy.
Nate?
I'm fine. I mean, I'm trying to reinvent myself as the British Army officer and what's it called? Slaughterhouse 5, who it's just like every day I work out, I pay attention to my appearance. I have to take care of myself, otherwise you rot away and become a fucking horrible creature. But it's absolutely this being the British Army officer who's in prison in a German POW camp. But unfortunately, it's a battle between two wolves: the wolf of wanting to work out in my backyard and the wolf of not wanting to put on pants for the entire day. So we'll see which one reigns.
You're doing
both of these wolves are Australian.
You're doing Apocalypse Now. Every day you're in the podcasting basement, you get weaker, and Charlie's out there getting stronger.
Maybe I'll grow a quarantine mullet. That would be a fun Australian thing to do instead of going to Australia.
Trying to cancel a pod for slurs around here is like trying to charge a driver at the Indy 500 with murder.
So
only Alice would get that joke, of course.
Yes. So Charlie is indeed everywhere. The
Charlie
free market
virus
seems to largely...
Wait, is this Infernos?
Shut the fuck up. The free market seems largely to have collapsed, and Matt Hancock has gone on TV and said, "It is because we are human that we are vulnerable to the virus."
Matt Hancock.
This is why Matt Hancock is becoming a parkour cyborg.
The £1 million man. Incredible.
Yeah. We are gearing up to all become post-humans. No, it seems very interesting. The neoliberal state appears to just have largely collapsed as a concept.
I'm so into the idea of Matt Hancock just going out and like grasping the podium and in perfect Matt Hancock voice going, "Give up your flesh and a new world awaits you." Awesome.
So, welcome to the start of Trash Future Season 3. Season 1 was just whatever it was that we did. Season 2 was us responding to the idea that, well, socialism or barbarism, we picked barbarism. Season 3 is our response to, well, that came true quicker than we thought.
You wait ages for a barbarism and then two show up at once.
Damn.
So it seems like season 2 was more of an interlude. But no, so we have a few things to talk about today as your introduction to what the fuck is going on. And then we're going to talk about what different people are doing about it. So I want to start out with this, with a section I've called Oopsie Doopsie, We Destroyed the State. Alice?
Be my number one thing, which is that I wish we'd started training more doctors and nurses earlier, because it takes 7 years to train a doctor, 3 years to train a nurse, and we need more doctors and nurses in the NHS. Social care is another one. Look, without getting into the politics, I did believe that it was necessary to make very painful cuts in public spending in 2010. But in retrospect, I can see that the cuts to social care were in a way the most silent, but also the most devastating. And, and I think that when the government comes forward this year with its plans for social care, I really hope that we put it on a sustainable footing going forward, because I think it's desperately important.
Jeremy Hunt's there.
Silent
but deadly.
Silent
cuts.
but deadly. Yeah, Jeremy Hunt just ripping ass in the cabinet office. But also, just I love when he goes, not to get into the politics of it. Oh yeah, not to get into the politics of it, Jeremy. You're only a fucking politician.
Yeah, you were only, health secretary at the time. But not to get into the politics of it.
Small health secretary.
Yeah, he's doing self-care, and that's valid. No.
Honestly, here's the thing. At this point, At this point, yeah, that is valid. I'm starting to see in the last sort of week, I've begun to interpret electoral politics as like just all kind of like A, bath party shit, and B, something that's worthwhile for someone who's just, finding themselves for a while.
Yeah, but like this is the thing. He's doing this on national TV at the same time Boris is trying to like brief people, kind of. And so this is the most Tory thing of being like, national crisis, time for a plot, I think. It is the most Borgia shit, and I think we can all understand politics on that level. It feels more honest somehow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of bath party shit, did anyone see the John McDonnell interview today in his living room? And because that chandelier he has is deeply Saddam Hussein's house.
Just a big mural of himself in John McDonnell's house.
So like huge moustache that he doesn't have.
Just for setting things up a little bit, right? We are facing an almost certain eventuality where our health system is going to be swamped many times over by people who are sick and desperately in need of care. And a lot of those beds are taken up by people who have no places to go in social care, and so the NHS can't discharge them. There's tons of beds that are blocked. And there's now a generation of politicians who've been just taken seriously by people whose job it is to be honest, whose job it is to be seen to question them, but to take them seriously, making the system we live in fragile enough that any crisis would have toppled it over. And I think the issue isn't that people like Jeremy Hunt are like individually villains, although they certainly are, but rather that everyone who just went along with the idea that nothing bad would ever happen, and we could just continue to stretch things thinner and thinner and thinner, have been shown to be rubes.
Yeah, well, no, not even rubes.
It's just at the controls here.
It's totally hollow, right? Like I keep coming back to my Borgia thing, where it's just power for its own sake. Because, like, yeah, there used to be people who were like ideologically wedded to Hayek or Mises or whoever, and just wanted to reduce the state and on and on and on. In the 80s, now you just have the dregs. Boris Johnson, Jeremy Hunt, whoever, they don't actually have any like sort of animating ideological thing here. It's reflexive. You cut the thing. That's what you do. You make the line go up.
Yeah. But nothing bad will ever happen because it's Britain. Nothing bad's ever happened in Britain except for the Blitz, and we sent them packing. fucking German fucking twats.
Look,
what kind of virus?
We dodged a bullet with Corbyn. All right, we could be having this exact same thing, but he would be trying to like praise the IRA to the virus or something. I am a serious journalist.
I love to go to the supermarket where the shelves are empty under a Boris Johnson government, point at them solemnly, and just say "Germoy Krobny."
Well, this happened. Yeah. Did we see the various sort of freaks and haters and losers who just were posting photos of empty shelves in Britain and going, "Oh, to Venezuela." No,
very nasty.
That's not where that is. That's in Stoke Newington, which is not in Venezuela.
It's almost as though external factors fucking matter.
Damn. Going to Los Infernos on Caracas Common.
But yeah, Alice, I think that's true. It's reflexively doing and redoing what we did in the 1980s. Because what did we do in the 1980s?
Feel good about ourselves, make money, have jobs.
Well, what happened?
Wear big tie.
Yeah.
Wash our pussy in the sink.
What happened was that like that's when global capitalism hit a major crisis because line go down because there's a tendency of the rate of profit to fall. Line go down. It caused a crisis that caused like secular stagnation, and then we decided, in order to make line go up again, that we had to turn exploitation harder onto a formerly protected working class in the West. We all know this story. The erosion of the state, the steady erosion of the state begins so that line go up.
Yeah, and now the entire economy is then Virgin presents line go up factory, which works fine until it doesn't, which is now. I thought it would take less time, but we got there in the end. We finally killed the damn thing. It is over, and we should all be glad. This is
look, hey, if everyone out there who prayed for authenticity, you got it.
We also got
we
got an end to capitalism as we currently understand it.
Yeah.
That's why everything's so weird. We have lost our sort of our defining or even just reflexive ideology by this point. And it's pretty cool.
We're learning a lot of things really hard. Number one, landlords won't just be nice if you ask them to, because they're not going to, predict that they're going to need to they're gonna just suck all the blood from their tenants because they don't have an internal mechanism telling them to stop, that they need tenants next month and next month and next month. They don't have that internal mechanism. And so much that we seem to build in this giant social edifice is based on the idea that at some point that mechanism kicks in and the exploitation stops. But when every single fucking thing is fungible, every single thing is fungible, every moment is accounted for, everything is means tested, everything is targeted, eventually that tendency, it pushes you too far, it makes your system too brittle, and then the world looks at you sideways, and then it breaks.
Well, I was very taken by the idea that we've built our society on this idea of rational self-interest, and then thrown thing after thing into the way of obscuring that kind of rational self-interest, if such thing even exists. Just in the sake of the line going up. I saw a guy on Twitter who I think was somebody asked him about do you think you have any responsibility to the next generation? And he said, I have one child, my responsibility ends at one. And I don't know what else you can say to that. That's not rational. It's not even particularly ideological. It is just a hindbrain.
It's nervous.
Yeah, it is just this reflexive, a doctor has taken the little reflex hammer and hit that guy on the knee, and it's activated the sociopath lobe. That is my child doesn't have to live with anyone else's children. They can just wear a fishbowl over their head while the rest of the fucking earth burns down around them.
Yeah, like an old-timey diver. That would be fun. I mean, the problem is when line goes down, it's very bad, because we all remember what happened to the Roman Empire. It was, line goes down and then Visigoths.
And so we're beyond the line. We're beyond everything being fungible. We're beyond things like GDP and unemployment numbers being meaningful,
or money for that matter. It might matter for a while yet in terms of you not starving, but in economic terms, you can just throw trillions of dollars into the economy, have it do nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It never did, but now it's just undeniable.
Are you saying my collection of Chuck E. Cheese bucks is worthless?
No, I'm saying it's actually probably soon going to be worth more.
Do you want...
Oh yeah, it's memorabilia, bitch.
Do you want some... I don't even know what kind of hauntology this is. This is double reverse hauntology.
No, hauntology's gone as a concept now. Hauntology and nostalgia have become annihilated with one another.
There is one sole artifact, and that is... did you know that when the Dow Jones Industrial Average passed 20,000 for the first time, traders were getting hats made up that said Dow almost 20,000, Dow 20,000, Dow above 20,000 as a celebration? And somebody pointed out, I think it might have been Liv at Liv posting on Twitter, oh hey, all of those guys can wear their old hats again now. Just meeting it again on the way down.
Great. I did actually see a photo of a guy who had saved his Dow 15,000 hat from 2013 and was wearing it on the trading floor. And I'm like, I normally reserve contempt for people who work at Wall Street, but that's good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
What's going to happen to the Wall Street bull? Is he going to have to be replaced with a bear?
No, he's going to be. No, it's
is
no
there going to be
animal.
Russian intervention?
It's good. There's going to be no animal anymore. That's just going to become a normal street, maybe like a market garden. But yeah, that's the other thing, right? We're now we've realized that we can just magic trillions of dollars just out of nowhere and just pay everyone's costs, and that's going to be sustainable for I don't know, a minute. But
money printer go brrr.
But what's So now what? Everyone's getting paid by the government to do nothing for a while, right? Like I thought this system was supposed to have to never stop and constantly grow, and here we are sustaining something akin to life on Earth, something akin to a civilization, but like nothing's happening. It's got me feeling. It's got me feeling all kinds of enervated.
You've got to be a Marxist-Leninist by this point, because the class analysis.
Why? There's no point.
No, there is, and the point is that Marxism-Leninism tells you that this stuff is inevitable. Those contradictions were going to come to a head, no matter the personalities or the little fripperies around it. Like the failures of Corbyn or of Bernie Sanders, whatever, doesn't matter, because eventually you will get to a point where the most conservative government you can imagine is going to have to do something like universal basic income, and it's not going to matter. It's not going to work because it's going to destroy it, but it's going to be inevitable. It's just like that kind of like, oh man, I want to go break quarantine and lay some flowers in Highgate Cemetery. There's just
it honestly, I mean, I'm no Marx head in the sense that I've never really read any Marx. My understanding of Marx is purely from like the Wikipedia summary thereof. But I occasionally get berated by like intensely divorced people who just hear that I'm left wing. I don't even say I'm a Marxist, and they go like, oh yeah, well, if you're left wing, why didn't Marx predict 9/11? And then you're like, well, he may not have predicted 9/11, but he did predict the exact economic circumstances we're experiencing right now, like 150 years after his death. So maybe shut the fuck up.
But here's the thing, right? We often talk about like late stage capitalism. Again, doesn't matter what that means now. It's something that used to be happening from some point to 2 weeks ago.
It's like arguing when the Middle Ages ended in like 1860.
Yeah. Like late stage capitalism was something Marx predicted, and that was when we were rearranging the deck furniture on the Titanic. We have stopped rearranging the furniture on the Titanic, and what we're now experiencing is the like last firing motor neurons of like a system that's now drowning in the North Atlantic. We wish we were still
capitalism is on DMT right now.
Pretty much. I mean, like, I don't.
It's the DMT rush before it dies.
I don't love Zizek, but he was right when he said that the coronavirus and the like accompanying crash were the five-finger death punch from Kill Bill, where capitalism is just it's walking, it's already dead, and it's just sort of walking, and until it takes enough steps to keel over.
Now that is a man who touches his face.
I kind of disagree, to be honest with you. I think it's gonna continue. I think that you're gonna see every effort put forward to salvage investment and investment vehicles and securities and things like that. But what I think is going to be as weird as I think perhaps more interesting is you're going to see a complete reversal, or at least a significant pullback from global financialization. So in a way, like I think you're still going to see, securities. You're still going to see shareholder control of things. But I think it's possible. Whether it happens quickly and thus saves some turmoil, or whether it happens at the end after a fuckload of turmoil, is to be seen. But I think you're going to see going back to state monopoly capitalism in a lot of ways. Because I think people are realizing that we've been told our entire lives. I mean, I'm almost 36. I've been told my entire life that it doesn't matter that everything is rotting out and decaying from the inside. You can get cheap TVs from China now. But people are also like, yes, but you applied that same business logic to surgical masks and respirators, and now you're basically dooming a significant chunk of your population to a painful death because you wanted your fucking hot Cheetos 5% faster. And I think you're going to see significant changes because it's just going to be untenable. I mean, there's going to be a point at which the government is either going to employ a fuckload more people, or we're going to see 20 to 40% unemployment rates in Western countries. And that's completely unsustainable. That's 100% fall of Rome shit. So when you talk about sort of the hegemon of global international capital, I do think that's going to change. And that's going to go away. Like the power, the universal power of that is going to be diminished significantly. But I'm yet to be convinced that we're going to see the complete death throes of capitalism, just because I feel like we're about to enter into a period in which the power that people have is going to be pitted head to head against people who have a fuckload of stored up capital. And when people start getting hungry and getting homeless, things are going to get weird. The Eric Princes of the world are suddenly going to be a lot more like feudal lords than they were before. So I don't want to put any bets on capitalism's death, but I do think that in a way, we may go back to something that seems like a refraction of like the pre-oil crisis, big statist economies, and maybe
I think that is a death of capital.
I agree with you. Yeah,
I think that.
I agree with both you and Alex.
I think it's a problem of definition, right? When we say the death of capital, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody gets Thanos snapped, who has over like $100,000 in the bank. But what it does mean is that we go back to a time where we don't organize our society around what the line says, but instead we do something else, and that can go in any number of directions. Whether there is still nominally a line or not, it kind of doesn't matter, right? Whether securities still exist, whether stockbrokers and stock markets still exist, doesn't matter because they're out of the driving seat now.
That's the line. The line is like the Pope now.
Yeah,
people will pay attention to it, but it no longer can march in the Romagna.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, the line is going to preside over a bunch of like pedophiles in hiding?
Well, not for the first time.
I mean, gonna.
Oh fuck yeah! I forgot Epstein was a finance guy. Is that why?
Nate,
wait, hang on. Can we collect a bit of red string from Epstein dead to line go down?
The red string
Nate,
has to go down and then plateau and then go up a bit and then go way down.
It feels to me like global returns against investment now. Also, like this has been happening in the last few years. This is almost the whole basis of our show, where it's based on stuff that's just so obviously fraudulent. It's so perfectly removed from any kind of production, like that. It's based on it's based on what, like, marketing, for example. Facebook's ability to micro-target ads is a big percentage of the U.S. economy.
It's fine. Elon Musk is going to build ventilators, guys.
So I want to talk about ventilators. We're going to talk about ventilators because you didn't think in our first post-capitalist episode, or post-capitalism as we know it episode, we were going to only mention precious Labrador boy Matt Hancock once. No.
Oh, so is there going to be a van full of robots, and while the van is coming to your house, because you're dying, the robots are building the ventilator that the van then delivers to your house using the robot?
Fuck it, fund it. $1 billion. Why not?
$4 billion.
Yeah, because money's fake now. We're doing like interest rates are now 0.1% from the Bank of England, and it will not make a dent. It is. Yeah. I'm like, of course, it's very bad that like the reason why this is happening is this cataclysm, right? I'm not gonna do the Vanessa Hudgens thing and be like, and people will die, and that's inevitable. But it's very funny to me that we've we've been vindicated when we said, don't say we didn't warn you, right? We did try to tell you that none of this stuff would work, and now it doesn't work. So guess what? You know?
Speaking of, you have to listen to some podcasters be snug.
Yes, you do.
Speaking of which, I want to talk about Matt Hancock here. Matt Hancock, because of that thing Jeremy Hunt said earlier, where he was like, oopsie doopsie, destroyed the state. Oh no, society did exist, then we pretended it didn't and ripped out its organs, and now we're desperately trying to get it to like run a marathon by shooting some adrenaline into a fucking skeleton. Matt Hancock is now called. Okay, no, that's a cool t-shirt for the next t-shirt. Matt Hancock has called on British manufacturers such as JCB of backhoe fame, Rolls-Royce of rapper fame, and Jaguar Land Rover of middle-aged pervert. Sorry, Alice, you go ahead, then I'll do it.
We need to investigate the role that JCB plays in the like modern Tory mindscape, because like Boris went there to drive a JCB like backhoe through a bunch of boxes marked Brexit. So I want to know what the vision is that keeps bringing us to
desperately.
JCB.
desperately spray painting coronavirus onto those boxes.
But I don't know. I personally would like to. I can't wait for like JCB to build the world's biggest wrecking ball, and then like Prime Minister-elect Rishi Sunak to smash over an old art museum that has the word 50% unemployment written on it.
Honestly, mate, the last time I was on JCB, I was convinced I was on the moon looking at the Earth, and that I saw Brexit become the coronavirus.
JCB.
To JCB.
I'm just going to say, it does not escape notice that you have recent Tory MP arrivals working or alongside Matt Hancock, people like Bima Fulami getting on Twitter and being like, and I'm reading from his tweet, the Prime Minister is calling for a national effort in ventilator production. If you know of any business that might be able to assist, please call the BEIS Business Support Hotline on X number. A team are in place to take your calls. So basically we're like, whoops, we're going to kill a third of our elderly population. I'm an up-and-coming government, and one RT could really change my career by hooking me up with some artisanal ventilator production. Like,
Quick.
So in a way, like the moves that Rishi Sunak is making are big headlines to hide from the fact that Matt Hancock is going on TV to reassure people, but then also getting on Twitter and being like, I don't have a fucking clue, and we don't have shit because we disassembled every factory and we just turned it into a vape shop. And that's Britain's economy.
Commissioner Johnson having to shine the business signal into the night sky.
Our NHS is basically in the same situation as an uninsured American who needs a surgery, where we're going on Twitter.
Yeah, we're GoFundMe.
Yeah, basically this is GoFundMe to build ventilators. Yeah.
Fuck hell.
Go ventilate.
It's
me.
like, imagine if you had a GoFundMe and you were trying to get surgery, and you were a really, really good counterfeiter, but they just didn't have room. Like, they didn't have the capacity to perform surgery on you. So even though you literally had the money printer that went burr, you couldn't spend enough to actually be able to get your way into a fucking surgical operating room.
I'm really excited to get respiratory illness and get hooked up to the Amstrad ventimator.
Well, here's the thing.
It can send a fucking email while it helps you breathe.
There's a reason that that no amount of money printing in the world is going to solve this problem, because we've retooled ourselves away from being able to accomplish anything collectively.
You can't build a ventilator in a WeWork, right? Like, you can't even
do that.
You can't even really build a ventilator out of a JCB.
The air is cucumber flavored.
Yeah, I love the idea. It's like, well, we've with British gumption and daring do, we've put together a crack team of ventilator assemblers. We're now putting out ventilators, 10 per day. They fill your lungs with malt vinegar and chip grease. But hey, those are the two basic commodities we have in this country.
I love to have the
Sean Connery will
last.
be leading a change.
I love to have the last vestiges of manufacturing, which are all like heavy industry, aerospace, weapons, shit like that. I love to get the BAE laser guided ventilator.
No, I want the fucking film of the crack team of British legends coming out of retirement to build ventilators, led by Michael Caine, just being like, "You were only supposed to inflate the bloody lungs."
Well, here's the thing, Milo, right? What the fuck does Matt Hancock know about ventilators?
Nothing. He doesn't know anything about anything.
He is a dog.
Yeah,
he's there. He's there to be the friendly Labrador that winds down the state for the purposes of line go up. And now all of his line go up activities have made the line stop. And so he's watched Apollo 13 and he's really hoping that that's what he says. The UK has 5,000 ventilators but needs many times more. And Hancock said anyone who can should turn their engineering minds and production lines to making them. We need to produce more. As though, you can just, all factories, all heavy industry is just a big box with a dial that says toys, cars, ventilators, and we need to turn the dial to ventilators. Because from the point of view of finance capital,
many companies are leaving the dial sat at USB cock cages.
Well, because from the perspective of finance capital, because everything is globalized and all of these relationships are fungible and uncontracted, from the point of view of finance capital, you basically can do that. So long as there's not a global crisis and everyone else is trying to.
That's why it's so funny when you apply nationalism to this. as our favorite wet-brained boy Donald Trump has, and be like, well, there's a ton of material for masks, but it's all in China because that's where the factories are. Well, who put the fucking factories in China?
The Chinese.
Line go up, Alice.
Line go up.
Very nasty people. Very bad Christmas party. Bad soup, not tasty, not hot.
When they used to say, you'd see the tweet online about like, people with American troops are in Iraq defending our freedoms, and it's like, what the fuck did my freedoms do to get put to Iraq? Like, how did they wind up in Iraq? And it's the same. It's like, okay, facetious argument, but it's the same sort of thing. It's like, where did all the auto parts factories, where did all the medical manufacturing facilities go to? Oh, damn, they went to China because, as we've learned, you can make them for 40% less and then sell them for 10% more year on year and make a killing, and that can all go into, I don't know, whatever the fuck child rape islands. But then all of a sudden, something comes along that makes it so people can't work in fucking GameStop, and the entire economy falls apart.
Weary press officer. Weary press officer approaches the microphone. We admit that calling it Child Rape Island was a mistake.
GameStop is petitioning to be essential infrastructure. They don't want to give anybody time off.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, again, Nate, you asked this question: where's it all going? WeWork. Because all of this capital assembled back in the States on the basis of these like massive oligarchies forming, then had to be invested somewhere. And so they're like, well, all the ventilators and surgical masks are fine being made in China or Germany. So we're going to invest it in the high return, monopoly seeking, stupid as fuck tech sector. And we're going to put like, $500 million in a social dog walking startup and another $47 billion into like a place where you can go hang out and have some water.
And again, not to be smug, although I am, but we fucking told you, like, every time we did a particularly dumb thing, a particularly dumb startup that we talked about, yes, we made fun of it, and yes, it was all very whimsical, but we made a great deal of hay out of the fact that this money was going to that because there was too much money, and like it was sort of anathema to invest it into anything useful. This is what you got instead. People that will die, you might die, and it will be for the fact that somebody thought it was a good idea to invest in like a doorbell that tells you what time it is and also gives all of your search history to Amazon. Get angry. Right? Like I know me saying that doesn't mean anything because it, like I said, inevitable, gonna happen anyway.
Well, the last 5 years of the economy has exclusively been what if X was the cops. That has just been what it's been asking.
And now like 2 million people are suddenly unemployed. People are having to text their landlords, and their landlords are like, oh, well, actually, it's quite important to me that you do pay the rent on time. Smiley face. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to use any true and on sound effects here. I think we can all kind of see. Yeah. The class character
button on the soundboard labeled "C Mao."
Yeah, laserized Mao is happening, and independent of anything that we could say.
And the thing is, when you spend 40 years recalibrating every single thing that happens as the sum of individual choices, when you see renters as just failures who should be punished with continuing to rent, when you see doctors as a regrettable drag on a dynamic economy that could have more startups, that's the price you pay for line go up. And the longer line go up, when you do more of that, the more likely line is to stop.
At real
financialised sausages?
At least
that's what it's like in my brain.
President.
Hit me with the thunder.
Be my number one. I wish we'd started training more doctors.
Are you worried?
7 years to train a doctor. 3 years to train a nurse.
Alice.
Yes.
We need more doctors and nurses in the NHS. Social care is another
Jesus.
one.
I've lost control of this. It's gone so wrong.
It's got a mind of its own.
Oh man, I've been hoisted by my own petard. Hold on. Shit.
See that comes to social care.
So
there. I've killed Jeremy Hunt with that one. We have
as a sound effect.
Yes, as a parody, and on a soundboard.
As a sound effect.
Yes.
So the other thing, right, is that again, the fact is, they're the people who we thought were in the driver's seat, the people that we thought it was important to either elect or keep out of office, are just not. They're just not there. They haven't been at the controls for a while. Like when we introduce a 3-month mortgage holiday for landlords, so they don't have to be paying for their mortgages, including buy-to-let landlords. The official guidance from the government to landlords was consider not charging rent, but you still can.
Please be nice.
Yeah, be nice.
Please be nice.
My favorite one that I saw, because I think one of the things about the age we live in that frustrates me the most is how just like everything has become meaningless, and everyone is taught to speak in this kind of like meaningless bollocks corporatese speak at work so that no one is ever offended, but it becomes so much more offensive under like strained circumstances. So like someone was posting on Twitter about they'd emailed their lettings agent saying they've lost their job and they can't pay their rent because of this, and there's anything they could do to them. And the lettings agent had replied being like, hi, yes, I understand the situation. Must be very difficult for you. I've looked into it and I can confirm for you that the rent will still be due in full on the 1st of the month. Hope that helps.
Cool.
And it's like, did you read that back? Hope that helps. I hope it helps.
Hope it helps.
I hope that helps.
I hope it helped. Hi, I'm happy to give you some extra information. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I mean, today my lettings agency was like, oh, by the way, the landlord is sending builders to do some work. Please make sure to keep the place clean and stay out of the way so we can protect each other during this crisis. And I politely responded with like, hi, my wife is asthmatic and this is a serious issue. So I'd love to know what kind of work you're planning on doing because I would strongly recommend we not do this. But I had to calm myself down because my initial response was to go like full white guy from the Midwest named Kevin and just be like, you better fucking bring a bailiff and he better have a gun because motherfucking like that kind of thing. Because it's just like, why on earth would you, like,
you send an email that's just a text from the back of one of those t-shirts generated by an algorithm.
I feel like we're getting into this point where we have this contradiction between hope that helps letting agency emails and the power that they might wield versus the power of a guy named Kevin who has decided to turn his hallway into an improvised bear trap. Just
oh yes, I'm with Kevin. I'm quarantining at Kevin's place.
Look, that's what we talked about contradictions. The world is now replete with them. It was replete with them before, but they've become fundamentally undeniable. Yeah, money's worthless because it's infinite now, apparently.
Yes, like all of the stuff that you thought was cliche, right? Like Crime Think or whatever, being like, damn, there's a lot of brands or whatever. Or as Nate mentioned, the how did my freedom get in Iraq thing. All of that is like the dumb stuff is all true now. It all happened, and like being. Like the one thing I will concede about Marx and about Marxism is that I think, Riley, you were right when you said that this is like a thing that has already happened, right? It's a fait accompli. And I think understanding Marxism and having a Marxist view of the economy and of history at this point is sort of like having an understanding of the theory of gravity after you've fallen off the ledge. Nice to know, I guess. But it's sort of been overtaken by events, you know?
Yeah, we've been proven right, but like
doesn't feel as great
what
as
happened has happened.
Does not feel as great as I hoped it would.
Awesome.
Would have preferred to have done this the incremental way, but no, you had to vote Tory. So,
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I'm going to win a lot of praise from our listeners. I think that a Corbyn government would probably be doing this nicer, would probably be handling it more competently, and would probably be like have more protections for like tenants and workers and stuff. And I think that would be a better 6 months.
Sure,
it would be better next 6 months.
Probably like the way that these things work, that would probably save several, I don't know, 100,000 lives, maybe. Which is
do you want to hear a really black-pilled theory I have about if we were doing this under a Corbyn government, which I genuinely believe?
They would have shot them.
That obviously, like Corbyn and McDonnell would be doing the good thing, right? But that there are so many fucking da motherfuckers in Britain who hate Corbyn so much and would do anything to own Corbyn that they would all be aggressively ignoring the government advice as a fuck you to Corbyn, and the situation would actually be worse.
Starting to understand the idea of a kulak now. No, my pet theory on this one
Like,
is
like-
if the Labour Party had won that election, whether the coronavirus happened or not, but this would have been a useful reason. At some point, like BBC News is just the army now, and hey, there's no more politics. So
Remain indoors.
Yes. All hail Kroll.
signed little girl.
Don't blame me.
so
I
if-
voted for Coda.
Okay, but let's also talk about this, right? Boris Johnson, when asked, "Are you worried about people profiteering?" Johnson said, "Please be reasonable. He really does not want to see any profiteering."
You hate to see it. Nobody wants to see that. It's, it really is like, everyone should be focused on the game. And you know what? When profiteering wins, it's the game that loses.
Because that's the thing, right? We've been profiteering since the last 40 years. We don't know how to do anything else. There's no other
something
mode.
something that really hammered it home to me was the fact that N95 masks, which they use a different acronym here for like the kind of protective
It's
masks.
a
but those
P3
are like,
mask kit.
Yeah. I turns out coincidentally, for doing some sanding and work last year, I bought a bunch of whatever P1 masks, which are kind of okay, but nowhere near as good as surgical masks. But these masks, we don't have the capacity to make them in the United States right now. All the manufacturing is done in China. All the polypropylene that's used to make them is in China. So, which is not to like point the finger and be like, boo, China, you're the enemy, but more to say,
gosh, how'd that happen?
It's shocking to me. Exactly. How did that happen? It's shocking to me. It's utterly shocking to me that this has been allowed to happen to the point where nothing that you need to even respond to a health crisis is available in the United States, to be made in the United States, or to be made in Great Britain, or to be made in the European Union, to the point where it's just like, apparently Taiwan is coming to our aid because they have the capacity to make it there. And so they're planning on donating like $100,000 a month to the United States. But the US needs millions right now, and they don't have them.
Yeah.
And they won't have them because once again, you could make them for 40% the cost, and you could pocket that money, and it could go towards, I don't know, buying a huge Jeff Koons dog sculpture that looks like a big balloon, and putting it in the stacking it into a huge fucking sandwich of like Ferraris and Jeff Koons sculptures on top of each other. Like, it's just all of the waste, all of the stupidity. I mean, the United States isn't just vulnerable to something like this. You also have the fact that, we have natural disasters, we have hurricanes, we have earthquakes, we have problems, we have potentially huge problems, like the whole I-5 corridor in Washington State is probably going to fall into the ocean when a big earthquake happens.
Do you reckon
this is one of those weird situations where it's like, because of the fact that it's going to affect everywhere in America, they can't just Katrina and be like, oh, yeah, everyone died. We destroyed all, like, there's no public institutions in the city anymore.
It's
Doesn't
on
matter.
a faster
You can't do
time
that.
scale than climate change, which is going to do the same thing and probably should imbue the same sense of urgency. But everybody thinks, well, I'll be dead by the time it gets bad. Can't be like that now.
Nope.
No.
No.
And if you're not,
Actually, you're more likely to be dead by the time it gets bad now.
that's true. But like, if you're not angry at the idea of doctors being told to wear one surgical mask until it falls apart, or make their own out of a bandana or a t-shirt, then what are you doing? Like, what else can we?
Dr. MacGyver.
Yeah, what I don't understand what else we can display to people.
Do you think now, with the kind of the Chinese having all of the expertise in making masks, we're going to get to the point where, like, guys in the US are making their own surgical masks on YouTube, and the comments are going to be full of Chinese people telling to go fuck themselves, and that's not an authentic
It
mask?
basically did happen.
They're going to become the Italians of
The
Asia.
Libertarians have been doing this. There's a guy who's like, the onerous regulation of NIOSH is like stopping me from 3D printing a bunch of masks that all have the age of consent
How
table.
dare you? How dare you to force me to make it good? But if we want to talk about the U.S., unemployment claims in the U.S. next week are like 30 times what they were at the peak of the 2008 recession. Yeah.
Basically, Goldman Sachs published an estimate that they think there's going to be 2.25 million unemployment claims next week.
Yeah.
And last week there were something like 300,000. However, based on some of the layoffs in states, just states alone, people are looking at the possibility of there being more like a 40% unemployment rate.
Incredible.
Almost
But they're loving
overnight.
all that at-will employment now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a way, it kind of proves the case being made by a lot of. I remember this happening in 2012. People saying there was no recovery, that people were working in shit jobs and working multiple jobs, and that the unemployment rate was artificially low. And in a way, it probably is because of the fact that you can't claim unemployment in most Republican states. It's like in Florida, they've cut it in half of what it was in 2008. And you can only get unemployment for 12 weeks, and you can only get it if you go to 5 job interviews a week.
Well, I'm
not joking.
I'm
That's
also
how you
thinking,
get Florida Man right there.
I'm also thinking about radicalization, right? Like, how many of those workers who are now going to be on unemployment at some point voted against a union, either because they were scared that they would lose their job, or because their management was like, well, we're actually more of a family, really.
Or they were like, oh, you can buy a PlayStation.
Yeah, no, you can buy a
game.
PlayStation, but
You'll
also
just die in a couple of years.
We'll take care of you. We're a family. We don't want a mediator in between us. And then like in the last week, have gotten a text like, hey, we're firing everybody. Your boss is fired. Your boss's boss is fired. Don't come in ever. Yeah, bye.
Yeah.
Don't call us.
Boss's boss is roller skating around, throwing grenades at you and eating hamburgers.
Yes.
That's the thing, right? Like, the specific number of the unemployment claims no longer matters.
No.
We're out of the realm of that being relevant. This is now purely academic information.
God, you know what it is?
Because
that leftist Twitter take of, is it socialist to even measure things? Because you're kind of ascribing that came true. That actually happened. Numbers don't mean anything anymore.
It's pointless. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do when 40% of the people in a consumer economy aren't there helping other people consume things or aren't consuming?
You do you pull all of the levers that have been installed to like manage our society as it previously existed, and you go on MSNBC and you say, well, actually we fact checked this, and it's really more like 39.9% than 40%, before the mob storm the studio and tear your arms off or whatever.
Well, you pull all those levers, and then you turn around, you see that they've been disconnected since 1979.
Everyone, they've pulled every lever in the cabinet office and it's done nothing. And then they start, it's like, quick, try the racism button. It's already fallen off.
It's just been taped down since 1960.
Like, and that's why we're talking about this idea that we're no longer like, line go down, doesn't matter anymore. Line end, line over.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just pause an economy based on constant, frantic, endless growth in every direction at every opportunity. It's not a beast that can stop. It's a shark. If it stops swimming, it fucking dies.
Yeah. On a side note of one thing that hasn't stopped, which is incredibly tiresome shit lib identity politics. Did you see Amber Rudd this week was posting how disappointing it was that there weren't any women in the fucking like emergency cabinet, whatever thing? It's a shame there aren't as many black people in the country, thanks to you, Amber.
Did you see the flip side of this, which was like the anti-identity politics thing, which was very nearly your Brendan, which was in The Spectator. Will the coronavirus stop the NHS from jolt the NHS out of its trans obsession?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Which, yeah, I guess. I guess. I
can't.
My surgery.
All the ventilators have been converted into dick segmenting machines. That was the problem.
My surgery was cancelled a while ago. That's fine. I don't care by this point who would. I think it's very funny that I was like, man, I should really get on this and get this referral and everything before antibiotic resistance makes it totally impossible to get surgery. Was worried about the wrong microbe. But The Spectator has given this more thought than I have, and it's my fucking dick. I have not written a column about this. I'm only mentioning it on here in passing. But they have a whole ass column about, oh, you're not very woke now, are you? Because you have to, now if the ventilator doesn't have 72 different gender settings, does it? It's like, what? What?
I love
It's
that-
you spent all that time identifying as an Apache
should have been
helicopter when you should have been identifying as a ventilator. Checkmate, Lib.
No, only the snowflakes can save us now. They have to identify as ventilators. I fully predict that will be something that gets written by one of these execrable humorists.
I
Doyle,
love to
Andrew
have that
fucking
happen,
Doyle.
and I go into hospital unable to breathe, and they just hand me a mask that's hooked up to a tube, and like a Durham University geography student in dungarees just blowing in and out of it. That's cool.
No, we're not going to cure your pneumonia, but we are going to change your gender.
Yeah, like I said, it is kind of weird that the dungarees people were right about basically everything.
Yeah.
I mean, preferably not about killing me, but
No,
they were
I'm
right about
sorry.
everything else.
Loading the shotgun like old Yeller.
There's only one lever we have left to pull. Killing me.
But look, I want to go back to the line for a sec, because we've only been looking at the line. When we say the line, we mean the rate of profit. We've only been looking at that for the last couple hundred years or so. It's measured since 1860. I think that's where
Pretty
measurement
much,
starts.
yeah.
The famous line go down.
But at
And
that point,
we
it's like guys in coffee houses screaming at each other,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Well, that's when the line was still based on the choices. That's when we still had a society that was structured in a way where there were guys that owned stuff, and the line measured how much stuff they owned.
yeah, and like
But at
even
some
where the
point-
line destroyed societies by going down too much, like the South Sea bubble or tulip fever, it still didn't like control. It wasn't the tail wagging the dog, right?
Yeah, the line has been more or less in charge for the last, again, approximately 40 or so years,
Mhm.
and that state of affairs is done.
Yeah.
It's over. Similarly, mass movement electoral politics. Who the fuck are you going to vote for? Are you going to vote for like the Democrats or like Labor under Keir Starmer, who's going to be like what the last like irredentist holdouts of neoliberalism who are
Long
like
Bailey,
finger
no
wagging at the
surrender.
conservatives for spending too much money?
Yeah, I'm so glad I don't have to pretend to be excited for RLB anymore. But like
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
no, it's fake, and also all politicians are doing another great Saddam Hussein thing of just hiding. Like Boris Johnson just like was not doing briefings for the longest time and was just kind of like having people text Robert Peston. Like nobody's fucking seen Joe Biden in a week. So like somewhere out there is a secret lab that is constructing a Joe Biden body double, and I cannot wait.
Because like it's because one of the reasons the Ba'ath Party was in power for so long is that it just, even though it was institutionally creaky and around a lot of the Arab world, like a popular uprising sort of at least shook the foundations of their power, depends on where you look, but where Ba'ath parties were in power, a lot of it was just sort of sclerotic. It was just because they were there. It's just they had institutional momentum and they realized they didn't have to do much.
Yeah,
It's just the government. The government's
Like,
just now another thing.
one of the things I'm proudest of is like a politics tweet as a wonk tweet, and that's very sad to say, is a political compass I made which has a different Saddam Hussein in every corner. So he's got the AK in the top left, and he's got like a Lee Enfield, and he's wearing a suit in the top right. It's totally elastic. Baathism can be whatever the fuck you want. And so politics now, so to the conservatives doing UBI, or Trump giving you Trump bucks, or Joe Biden vetoing Medicare for all. None of these things mean anything anymore. It's just government, right? It's just the blob.
Certainly none of it means anything to Joe Biden, who's already forgotten it and has no idea where he is.
It used to be hacky to say, "Oh yeah, politics is just entertainment now." Well,
Do you want the aphorism version of this? Is Julius Nyerera's? The United States is a one-party state. It just, with typical American extravagance, they have two of them.
Yeah.
So,
well, I've said this before, but like the Republicans are the party of we're going to make sure bad things happen, and the Democrats are the party of we're going to make sure good things don't happen, and that's the choice you have.
and that's the thing. That choice used to be like it's become less and less meaningful over the last 40 years. Now it's completely non-meaningful.
Mhm.
But we've been talking about everything that can't, all of the things that aren't, the non-happenings, the line that doesn't move, the government that doesn't govern, the politicians that don't politic, the workers who don't work, the things that are stopped. But not everything is ground to a halt, because there are centers of power that are still moving and still asserting themselves. And I'm talking about the massive and upcoming wave of the Amazonification of everything. Because they've just started, and now this is small, but it's going to grow. They've just announced 100,000 new jobs in warehouses around the world on a quote-unquote temporary basis to take advantage of this huge available labor force and meet spiking demand.
And remember David Mims, the guy who was like, I'm 60 and I love my Amazon job. That guy's dead now. He's being used to...
That guy's fucking ballast in Jeff Bezos' submersible.
They will seal him into a big Amazon box, and like flights of angels will sing him to his rest.
Like in fairness, it'll be a box that's way bigger than him, like unnecessarily
He's just
big.
rattling around in there dead. Yeah, it's cool.
Like, this is the thing, right? Nate, earlier you said that, no, capitalism as we know it's going to end, but like, we're not going to eradicate everything. And that's where you're right, because Amazon is going to become much more powerful. It's going to control a lot more people's livelihoods. And Jeff Bezos is going to get personally more like, I don't know, a feudal duke than he was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Looking at possible futures, and I'm seeing like one where we kind of just reinvent merchant princes, and like Jeff Bezos is the Doge of America. Another one where we just do fascism. We all know about that one. Already happening piecemeal.
It's a classic one.
Yeah, we do.
Volunteer border guards.
Yeah, friend of the show, fascism. But we also still have the fucking off ramp. We did socialism or barbarism, and we did barbarism. Doesn't matter. You can still turn, right? There are still socialist possibilities, which is what we want to explore.
Yeah, but first, before we get into those, I want to quote a friend of the show. Oh, sorry, not friend of the show, just follower of me on Twitter.
Close enough.
To call him a friend of the show because I haven't talked to him. Okay, sorry. I'll start that again. So, friend of the show, Brian
One of Riley's
Merchant.
disciples.
Shut up. Friend of the show, Brian Merchant, writes a really good blog about like technology and work and stuff called 10. And he had this article called "Coronavirus is Speeding Up the Amazonification of the Planet." And I want to read a quote from that, which is, if restaurants, bars, and local shops close permanently while app-based monoliths, so not just Amazon, but also Shipt and DoorDash and whatever,
Deliveroo,
hoover up both the customers and the jobs, the trend line may be very difficult to reverse as we wade out of the wreckage. And this is not a future we want. Because, and this is me again, all the people who are most like Bezos and the owners of like Deliveroo and stuff, who are most in place to take advantage of what's going on, what specifically is going on because of alienation and casualization, and the hyper speed of alienation and casualization that's going on right now. They are able to they have incredible bargaining power, and they're able to remake the world in their image, which is one of servitude, of just enough, just in time for everyone. And you don't want to live on just enough calories just in time for you to not keel over.
Like, this is also the thing why we're living in the most reductive future, and why, I don't know, there's like a gas leak or something on this planet, I swear. But like, like the same reason is measurement even socialist thing has come true. The same reason the George W. Bush just loves drinking oil thing has come true. Is that like all of this, like all of our future merchant princes of Deliveroo or wherever else, they're profiting off of alienation, and alienation in the Marxist sense is just you feel alone, you feel like an individual, you do not have a class identity. And then what have we done but the stupidest, most obvious, take the hint already, making the subtext text of social distancing. You all have to stay 2 meters away from each other or you're gonna fucking die. Stay in your house, stay isolated. It feels so reductive, and I want to complain to the writers. It's so fucking obvious.
Yeah. Well, something that's been blackpilling me a bit this week, in the sense of talking about like if there are like socialist alternatives to this, is just like you're walking around the supermarket and like people have been stockpiling everything, and it's been getting worse and worse to the point where people are now stockpiling milk. It's fucking milk. It goes off in like 5 days. You fucking morons. Like you're looking at it and you're just like, people, like enough people are too dumb and too selfish that you're never going to get enough people on board with something sensible.
No.
Like, it's
we cannot be trusted.
Will vote for the insane.
Yeah, we cannot be trusted with Tesco as a private entity, right? We cannot be trusted to like have this responded to by the Sag on Twitter going, well, actually, there's enough food if you just don't get scared. Meanwhile, everyone fucking terrified buying boxes of like old MREs and shit.
Steve MRE is the only guy like
that guy's gonna be
posting
fine.
through it.
That guy's gonna like be climbing out of the wreckage with like a quarter of like a 19th century Boer War biscuit.
No, don't open it. It has Spanish flu.
Just eating an Austro-Hungarian schnitzel.
But that's the thing, right? Like the new jobs that seem to be available are like surf for an app or a YouTuber who reads MRE.
You thought that the fucking gig economy was bad. Try that, but also you can't go outside.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the real thing. Like, we will be able to go back outside again, but what kind of outside we go back into, I'm not sure. But the app economy as we know it, Uber and automated ordering at McDonald's and stuff, it didn't come from nothing. It didn't come from no economic foundations. It came out of the financial and debt crisis, which created an enormous amount of people desperate for work who were willing to like just get enough to make ends meet. And it was just disguised as this lifestyle alternative for bored middle class people who wanted to earn a little extra money. And when those jobs are automated or casualized or outsourced, when they get worse, because it's in the interests of the people who are making it worse and benefiting from it getting worse and owning it to make you work harder, more, and faster for less of a reward, it doesn't just snap back. Like those Amazon jobs that are being created to like house the people, like to take on the labor force that's been created by the closing of like every bar, like that's not going back.
No.
Those jobs are those jobs now.
You can't unring
That's
the
what
bell.
there is. Yeah. The bell, like there's going to be a new normal. It wasn't whatever we're familiar with.
It is.
Unfortunately, it's going to be a new normal.
Well, this is the thing, right? We get to choose. And I'm not just saying that because as I've mentioned, what any of us say about it doesn't matter. It's just it's gravity. It's a thing that's happening, right? It's an economic inevitability. But what normal looks like is not something that has to be dictated to you by Jeff Bezos from his moon base or Elon Musk like hanging out with Grimes or celebrities singing you Imagine or Jennifer Lopez who lives in the house from Parasite for some reason doing live streams because it turns out that like the leverage that the one lever that is still connected to anything is labor, right? Is like people working and we kind of can see some traces of this, like Amazon unionizing Amazon workers shut down a fulfillment center in New York because Amazon was trying to make them work in basically like a coronavirus hive. People were already getting sick and they shut down the whole thing. So there is a possibility here.
Something I always find really interesting about Amazon is do they not realize how evil it sounds calling it a fulfillment center? Like, just call it a warehouse. Like, it doesn't sound great, but no one would give a fuck. But fulfillment center is deeply consume or nutrient pill.
Once again, the reductive thing of like we just live in a poorly written thing is true. Of like one of the photos that I saw when I was reading up on this was the empty fulfillment center, and it was rows upon rows of empty pallets with a little stapled on sign with the Amazon smile, and underneath in like Arial, just fulfillment. And I was like, the most we live in a society thing. So I was just like, please be be less obvious that it's like just I don't know. But like the other thing is that we have to talk about the CWU, the Communication Workers Union, which is which organizes Royal Mail, and who voted overwhelmingly for strike action, but also to essentially demand to become an emergency service and to put that labor force of Royal Mail at the disposal of the government in order to do what we would recognize as mutual aid of delivering food, delivering medication, checking in on people. And I feel like that's tremendously powerful. I feel like that's a vision of the future in and of itself, and it's probably the only one that isn't terrible.
So earlier when because I've been throughout this saying the line is done going, normal as a concept is not one that we're going to be familiar with anymore. I was very careful not to say it's definitely going to be worse. I'm not going to lie to you. We're not going into this
It's
struggle.
probably going to be worse.
Yeah, we're not going into this struggle with an advantage. We're not going into this with an advantage. We're finding bright spots where we can, but there's everything to play for. There's nothing else left.
I mean, on the one hand, sure. Like I get the kind of like halftime dressing room talk that you're doing here. On the other hand, part of me is just like that. It doesn't matter. The thing is going to happen because it has to. And whether that's just wishful thinking on my part or whether that's from a materialist analysis, I don't care to speculate. But at some point, it should just become as we've seen, the failure of capital, right, is now undeniable, and I look forward to a great many other things becoming similarly undeniable in the near future.
And look, the thing is, one of the other things that's undeniable, right, is that we have the last sort of X amount of years has been an attempt. The point of stripping back the state just cause. The point of turning. Of destroying every union, the point of turning every job into like an app transaction. The point was to isolate, divide, and undermine people. And the explicit admission of failure on behalf of governments to protect people who couldn't protect themselves, along with the apparent eagerness of Amazon, Uber, and other vultures to capitalize on the misery they created to extend this vampirism to a whole swath of the economy. It's what happens when we're divided up and alienated and relate to each other through the market. And this was also line would go up, but it destroyed the line. And no matter how many fiddly UBIs that Trump or the Tories promise, I mean, they all don't look good. They're not going to get us out of it because the paradigm they're trying to save has died, and it's been twitching for the last few years, and now it's stopped twitching. And all we have left at this point, all you could possibly do is depend on one another. Because the line is no longer going. You can't depend on it anymore. You can't say you're going to depend on one another, but kind of still live for the line. That's gone. It stopped. It's a cargo cult now. It's over.
Yeah.
And damn, only Johnny Cash should live to see this.
I want to end on this diary entry from an Italian autonomist thinker, Franco Berardi, who's also called Bifo.
This motherfucker named Bifo.
I have one more thought on the economics of the line.
Yes. Go.
What if it was Rikishi Sunak and he did a sort of economic butt slam? What would it be like then?
I was going to go to Yeats, and I was going to say all changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. It's a moment of.
I was just going to make.
I was going to say that BIFO sounds like you were trying to BOFA someone and you got the acronyms wrong.
Yeah, it's Joe Biden trying to BOFA somebody.
Hey, Mac, you ever see about BIFO?
Beef these nuts.
These two guys.
Yeah, BIFO.
They come
nuts,
around
baby.
the pool. Bifo and Corn Pop.
We are fucking idiots, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
All right, hit us with the Bifo.
Lord, heap miseries upon us, yet entwine our arts with laughter's low. Okay, let's go.
Season 3. Season 3, baby.
Season 3, a lot of James Joyce. This is from March 13th. Workers are on strike because, despite the general quarantine, they must go to factories and work on the assembly line with no sanitary mask and no safety distance. Nobody can say what will happen next in 1 month or 6 months. It may be a techno-totalitarian state is the future. In Black Earth, Timothy Snyder explains that there is no better condition for the emergence of totalitarian regimes than situations of extreme danger in which survival is at stake for all. The AIDS crisis prepared virtualization by spreading a fear of bodily contact. Now we might step to a condition of permanent isolation. The new generation might internalize the terror of the other's body. And terror is when the imaginary is totally prevailing on the imagination. But here we find the possible split. We might come out from the nightmare by the imagination of a possibility that yesterday was unthinkable. Frugality, reduction of work time, equality, abandon the paradigm of growth, investment of the social resources into research, health, education, and pleasure. We cannot know how we'll come out from the pandemics whose conditions have been prepared by the neoliberal cut to public health, by the pollution of the air, and the exploitation of nervous energy. We might come out of it in a condition of extreme loneliness and aggressiveness, but we might also come out of it with the desire for embracing, caressing, and laziness. The virus is a condition for the mental jump that no political preaching could produce. Equality is back and at the center of the scene, so let's imagine that it is the starting point of the coming time.
Well, would you nationalise sausages?
Shut the fuck up.
I told you the sampler was a good investment.
Yes.
So look. This is, I don't know if I speak for all of us if I say this is our way of trying to say to you, everything's changing. We're still here. We're still with you. We're still in your ears.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still going to be in your ears for the foreseeable.
Be excited, be scared, be whatever you need to be to get through this.
Cut toxic people out of your life.
Do positive vibes only. But
Don't go and see your grandma because you might give her the coronavirus.
Yes.
And also, she's a bitch.
Mm-hmm. Remember to follow medical advice, and if you do end up parody redacting before the summer, make sure to keep a 2-meter distance between you and everybody else throwing parody redacteds at the parody redacted.
Yeah, wash your hands before pulling the release cord on the parody redacted.
This is why the Black Bloc was so ahead of its time, was masks.
Okay. Look, we've been going for quite a while. I need to go.
Follow me on TikTok.
No, don't really.
Milo Evers 3. Yeah, follow me on TikTok. Yeah,
fuck
I'm
off.
Be doing it. Yeah, fuck yeah.
And don't
I'm a
forget
Zoomer
also follow Milo on TikTok. Check out Hell of a Way to Die, Nate's other show.
Check out Well There's Your Problem, my other show.
Check out Well There's Your Problem, because you know what else? We want to be here with you this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
We will be, but also for some of us, this is our full-time job.
Yes.
So please do hop on that Patreon.
The other thing that
smash that Patreon button.
The other thing that we said was that this was going to be our coronavirus episode, right? Like much like the Brexit episode. We do one, we talk about it, we come to some kind of a consensus about it, and hopefully you get some catharsis out of it. And then, obviously it's gonna still be a thing, and we'll just reference it in passing and say, hey, go listen to the coronavirus episode. We said everything that we needed to say about it there.
Correct.
We covered all of the bases. Everything else that we do is going to be not coronavirus based, even as we understand that it has totally remade our society.
Yes.
By the end of that episode, they weren't just coronavirus anymore. They were Little Women.
Still won't see it.
Dudes rock.
Now you definitely fucking won't.
God, what? Imagine being like the last movie that you saw in a movie theater, and it was Little Women, and you hated going.
Oh my god,
Dudes rock, baby. That's the one thing that's not changed. Dudes still rock.
Sure.
Let's see.
Dude, jackass on TikTok.
Yeah, we're still gonna be here with you. We're still gonna be here in your ears. We're not going to talk about coronavirus all the time because we're not like simps like the fucking Dr. Katya Adler Brexit cast, which became the newscast for as long as we had season 2, and is now the coronavirus cast.
Yeah, we don't chase headlines. We don't care. We're ahead of the curve on this one.
Fuck it. Let's release that Balthazar speedboat for the bonus episode. I think everyone could use it.
You know what else we should do? We should do some we should watch a movie again for another one. I think that's going to be.
Yeah, well, let's do Charlie Wilson's War.
Oh, I regret this decision immediately.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Riley Quinn, the only way to build a better society is to depend on each other and to rediscover kindness. Also, Riley Quinn tormenting his friend with a terrible movie.
Okay, I gotta run. This is, I don't know about all of you, I found this personally extremely cathartic.
Yes, it's up there with the post-election Us Getting Owned season 2 premiere.
Yeah,
we really saved the heavy emotional stuff for season premieres.
Yeah, you may have won this round, Corona, but we'll be back.
Dear Lord, what a sad little life, coronavirus.
All right, fuck it.
You enjoy the money, coronavirus.
hit me with that end theme tune, but give me a little Castle Thunder before it goes.
Yes.